Hi guys, Alec, Peirce at the ranch with another problem. We've got about 1.5 feet of snow outside. The temperature's about minus 10 degrees. Fahrenheit, Celsius, whatever you like, it's cold, doesn't matter. I'm working on my mower. Yeah, well, what I try to do, don't always succeed, but what I try to do is to service my machinery when I put it away. So I've completely serviced the mower itself, the motor and the engine and the wheels and the hydraulic drives and all that. I pulled the deck off because I knew I had to fix some things on the deck. And I've had the deck here in the garage for the past couple of months. I got a bit of time today, so I went ahead and I'm going to finish the deck. I can put the deck out of here and work on some other projects, and the mower's done. So in 3 or 4 or 5 or 9 or 12 months, get some hot weather and some grass, I can start cutting the grass. Okay, so you may have, I'll get Kevin to put a link on there, seen the earlier videos that I did on our zero-turn Toro mower. Now, it doesn't matter what kind of mower you have. They're almost all the same. As a matter of fact, some of the parts I'm going to show you today that were ordered actually from Amazon, to be completely honest, there's a long list. They fit on Troy and on dozens of different makes anyway. So there's not a whole lot of difference. So this will apply to any of you if you've had the same issue. And the issue is very simple. You may have seen the complete restoration that my dear wife Diane and I did on our Toro 5000 50-inch 3-bladed zero-turn mower last summer or the summer before, perhaps. We took the deck off, stripped it completely, every nut, bolt, washer on it, cleaned it up completely, sanded it, painted it, and then put it all back together, and it's been running perfectly for 2 years. But this last year, I've noticed that the rotors, the actual spindles themselves, they sit like this. This is a spindle, this part, and the belt drives the top. And when the belt drives the top, the belt turns the blade on the bottom like this. You see, it's just that simple. They have 2 bearings in them, and they were getting noisy. You'll actually hear it when you go look at your mower. If the belt is off, take the belt off, give the blade a spin, and you'll either hear nothing, or you'll hear rumbling. You know what a bad bearing sounds like. You'll hear bad bearings. And that's a bit of a nuisance because, you know, it's just a matter of time before they're going to break down. And strangely enough, it's funny how the mower always breaks down in the summer when you're mowing grass. That's weird. And I've noticed that my snowblower always breaks down in the winter when I'm blowing snow. Anyway, the point is this, that you need to get them fixed. It's a very, very simple fix. It really is. Now, there's two ways you can do that. Take it to your Toro dealer or your whatever it is, Tri-Built dealer, and give it to them. And for several $100s later, they'll give it back to you. It'll be fine. You can do that. Or you can do it yourself. Not only do you get the satisfaction, you get to know the machine better so you understand it better, and you save a whack of money. Let me explain. I don't even know how much a whack is. It's a lot of money. So here's the assembly. Now, the first thing you need to do if you've seen my earlier videos, you've seen this already. On the bottom, using a impact wrench, take off the bolt and the washer that holds the blade on. Get rid of the bolt on the blade. And then on the top, take the impact wrench, only way you get it off, take off the nut that holds the pulley on, like so. Take out that big nut on top, eventually, and the pulley comes off just like that. Nothing to it, really, very simple. And then you can take off there's four bolts. This sits like this, of course. Sits like this. There's 4 bolts that come down from the top, and they hold this spindle to the deck. Take off those 4 bolts. So now you got this in your hand. Well, whoop-de-doo. Yeah, well, it's kind of important. Now, that comes out of the middle. This is the actual bolt, whatever it is, shaft, okay, that the pulley drives this end, and the blade is on this end. It's very, very simple. It cuts the grass. So this is a very important piece. Check it, make sure it's clean, and all set to go. And now you're left with this. That's all you are. You're just left with this dirty old thing, and of course it's dirty. The top isn't too bad because it's bolted to the bottom of the deck, but this part is really dirty. So there's oil and grease on it. These bearings are greased and oiled, so there might be some oil and grease. And there's a bearing in there. Actually, there's a bearing on each end. There's a bearing here, and there's a bearing there. You've got to get those bearings out. To make it, to help you understand how that works, inside, down in that shaft, there's another tube, like so. One bearing sits on the top, one bearing sits on the bottom. That tube essentially is just a spacer. Now, what makes it easy to get these bearings out is that spacer is not in there tightly, and it moves a little wee bit. So you can actually reach down in there with a punch. You can push that little tube over the side, and then reach down from the top, and you can see the edge of the bearing sticking out. Just take it out. Other side, a little bit. Be a little bit careful, because the spindle itself is made of aluminum, so you don't want to damage it. So be a little bit careful. But it won't take very long, and you'll see that bearing will come right out of there. I'm going to get this out. I want you to see it. There, we're getting there now. Yeah, almost done. So now it's flush with the bottom. So now to get it out now, you need to put it into a vise like so, and make sure the vise is open wide enough that the spindle is sitting on the solid points. And now you can reach down inside now, and another tap or two, like so. I'm into the spindle now, just a little tap, and that bearing should pop right out of there. A little bit on this side. The bearing drops out. So there's the shaft, and there's the bearing. Oh, this is a bad one. This is a really bad one. It's rusty. That one even turn. Oh, it still it still turns, but it's not very good. Now, all you have to do now is just do the reverse. Turn it over, and you can see the other bearing from the top side. Just put that back in there. Let me do this quickly. Get a little bit on each side so you don't cock the bearing and hurt the spindle. There's the other bearing. This is the one that was on the top. It's a lot cleaner. It doesn't get all the grass and the dirt and the water on it. It's a lot cleaner. And there you go. So now you're left with your empty spindle. And you can see in there, that's where the bearing's set. Pretty grubby in there, a little bit of rust and so on. That's what it looks like. So the first step after you do that is to clean it up. So now this one is much, much cleaner. I might take a tiny bit of extra fine sandpaper or steel wool and run around, but not too much. You don't want to take very much metal off in there, or the bearing will be sloppy. And here's the other end. It's pretty good too. I'll just clean it up a little bit more, and we're halfway home. So now you've got the bearings on your spindle. You've cleaned it up nicely. Well, if you looked at my earlier video, I'll get Kevin to put the link on there. You know that you can purchase these spindles complete. I mean complete. They have the bearing, a new spacer, a new bolt, like this, and even comes some nuts and everything else. You can purchase these in sets of 3 if you have a 3-bladed mower, or 2 if you don't. But you can purchase these, and they're about, by the time you get them in your hands, it's going to be about $125 thereabouts for a set of these. Now these are aftermarket. These are not original Toro or Troy built or any one of those big names. From them, it'll be twice that, at least $300, at least $100 each. You can get these for about $125 aftermarket. And they're pretty good. There's no way that they're quite as good as the brand name, but they're pretty good. They have a space there for a brand name in there, no brand name in there. They may be made in the same place. But anyway, or you can purchase the bearings. That's right, you can purchase a set of bearings. It comes 3 boxes like this. Each box has 2 bearings, because each spindle takes 2 bearings. And these are $12 each, a set. So about $35 or so, and you'll have all the bearings you need. And if you're like me, You're going to say to yourself, well, let me think, for $100 I can put them all in there, or for $30 I'm going to do the bearings, because I'm kind of handy. I enjoy doing this, so this is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm telling you this. So now all you have to do is put the new bearings in, and that's pretty simple. That's the hardest part, the bearings out of the plastic bag. The new bearings, and there's no up or down on these. The bearings, as you see, they're nice, and there's no up or down. And all you have to do is press them back down in. Now, when you get to the part, you'll notice this yourself. One of these bearings goes in and it's flush. When it's down in there, it's flush with the top of the spindle housing. The other bearing on the other side, you can see it's quite a bit deeper. This one goes down in a ways, it's probably about a good half of an inch down below the surface. And there's several ways you can get those back in there. Don't just put it there and start whacking with a hammer, because if you cock if you get this cocked off to one side, the bearing will gouge the housing. The housing is just aluminum, so all you have to do is just very gently tap all the way around until you feel it started. Now you've got to get it down in there properly. There's several ways to do that. The easiest way and cheapest way, if you don't have a whole lot of special tools for this, is to get a socket wrench, preferably an impact socket wrench. And the socket wrench needs to be the size of the outside of the bearing, the outside race, like this. So it's not pushing on the rubber oil seal, nor is it pushing on the inner race. It needs to be pushing on this outside race out here. So you see, you want to get this so it's touching the outside race. That's one way you can do it. And then holding that straight, you tap on that. That'll push the bearing down in there nice and straight. If you have a set of bearing, what is it called? Bearing installer, bearing drivers. That's the right word for it. And you choose the appropriate sized one. And if you look closely here now, you see that this is a handle that comes apart, and you put the right bearing driver on. You can see now, you see that's exactly the right size. You see that? It's just perfect. So now you simply hold that, and you can watch to make sure it's straight. And don't use a great big hammer. Just use a little hammer like so. And drive her down in there. The bearing driver simply assures that you're putting even pressure all the way around the bearing as you're driving it in. And when it's in place, you'll know. You can tell by the sound. That's it. You can tell if you were close enough, you were tell. And now you see that bearing is installed. You see it's flush on there, nicely installed. Nice job, Alec. Okay, now flip it over. Same on the other side. Don't forget to put the spacer back in. Spacer's in there for a reason. I should clean that out a little wee bit. It's not too clean. Give me a minute. All right, now I'm cleaning up the spindle. I forgot to clean that out before I got this all set up for you. And that's hard. It's just a tube. It's not a big deal. It's a 3-inch tube, 2.5, 3-inch tube. And the outside doesn't matter a great deal, but the inside should be relatively clean, because this big bolt is going to run through there. And you don't want it all crusty and ground. So clean it out a little bit. The easiest way, I mean, you can run steel wool back and forth, but the easiest way is to get a steel, make it steel, because this is steel brush like this, and run it through. Although this is the absolutely perfect time to use this tool, which came from my great friends at Grip, G-R-I-P. I did a video on this, actually. If you look back, maybe Kevin can put another link on there for my Grip set of cleaners. It looks like this. All kinds of them, different sizes, and they come in nylon, and they come in brass, and they come in steel, which I'm using right now. And it comes with this get it out of here. Yeah, there we go. It comes with this really handy handle, into which the brass, this is one of the steel, in which the steel brush goes and locks in place, and that's what I'm going to use here. I just run that through there a few times. That's good enough. But it also comes with this, which is really handy. You can take that brush tip, put it into here, and put this into your drill. Oh, is this handy? Let me tell you, brass and steel and nylon, really handy. So that's That's good. That's nice and clean in there. Now, I'll put a drop of oil in there later anyway. So now don't forget to put that spacer in. And the spacer just sits down in there and sits right on top of the other bearing, just like that. Now take your second bearing out. Let me get out my handy bearing package opener. Get that second bearing out. And once again, there is no up or down with these. It's the same. These aren't even numbered. But oh no, they're numbered on the outside. Yes. Okay. Now set that on there very, very gently. Center it as best you can, and then very gently. Now you can feel it. It's starting to move now, and it's going in straight. So now take your bearing driver, right? Hear that? It's in. It's that simple. New bearings. Dead quiet. There's shaft in there. And now if I was able to spin this, you wouldn't be able to hear anything. Yeah. You know, you guys are like me. I'm deaf. Now you can't hear anything either. Anyway, that's it. Put it back together. Put the spindle back in, 4 bolts. Put the drive bolt in. Install the pulley on top, big nut, and then the blade on the bottom, and start cutting grass. Maybe we'll wait. You can't even see the grass yet. That's all there is to it. And what did that take me? 15, 20 minutes, maybe an hour altogether. Let's call it an hour, all 3 of them, and put them back in the get the deck out of here, and you're ready to start cutting grass. I wanted to show you this, guys, before we went. This is a very neat garage accessory that I built many years ago, like a long, long time ago. This is a bearing press. Now you can buy bearing presses. You can buy big bearing presses that take up half the garage, and they're good for, I don't know, whatever size and so on. This is a small one because at that time I was doing a lot of rebuilding of vintage motorcycles, BSA, Triumph and Norton bikes, and Ducatis, old Ducatis, and so on. And they're aluminum housings too, and they have a lot of bearings. And I built this. This is actually just a bottle jack. You see it in there? Just a bottle jack. Here's the handle. Put that in there, and turn that. See it going up? It's a bottle jack. I put it into a steel frame so it would hold the bearings perfectly straight and flat. So this one goes up, and this is very strong on top. So you put your 2 pieces in there with the bearing, and it holds it perfectly straight, and you jack it up. Now I put a gauge on here too. It's kind of neat. Come in here a bit closer, Diana, maybe. I'm going to show you how this works. I put a gauge in here. Now, let me be completely frank. If you can watch, can you see that gauge there? Because if you watch the gauge, and people say, oh, well, that's good because you can put the bearing in with the right pressure. Well, there is no pressure. There's no pressure setting. When you look in the manual for installing bearings, and just as I just did, in any kind of an assembly, they don't say, put the bearing into a certain pressure. I don't think so anyway. So that's not what this is for. What this is for is so that you know when the bearing is set. When this bearing, I just got a big fitting in there, when it gets up to, you can feel it there now. Nothing's moved. The gauge hasn't moved so far. Now watch. Now the gauge will start to move. And you just push it down. And when the gauge, the bearing's in. When you really can't push much more, and using the bearing driver, make sure it's the right size, and this gauge starts to climb, stop. The bearing is set. Just that simple. Then you just turn that handle, it drops down, pull the bearing out, and you're all set to go. So it's a neat little device I made a few years ago. I might actually do a video just on that, because it can be really handy for some of you folks who are doing some small engine repairs or whatever else you're doing, a bearing press. That's it. How to replace the bearings on your riding mower and save a whole bunch of money. Anyway, hope that was interesting. I had nothing to do. It's a winter's night, but it's snow outside. We had our snowshoe walk earlier today. That's it. I'll talk to you soon. Alec Peirce at the ranch. Take care.